Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive back into the world of Golarion, the setting of the Pathfinder role-playing game system? We're going to be headed to TNZ again today to talk about another nation there. So if you are ready to go there, I've opened up the gate. We're ready to travel through the multiverse to there. I've used all of my powers to be able to grab us and pull us forth, grab my hand, if you are ready. Remember, of course, to tip your host here and guide as we head to there. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, and let me know what you think about the nation we're going to be visiting. Kwanlai. Through the gate we go. We've arrived once more. TNZ is an interesting continent. Kwanlai, very interesting nation. It's only begun its recovery after everything that happened with its conquerors, the nice Imperial Long Wall. Shall we discuss this? Well, like any great things, I would say start with book sources. The TNZ World Guide. It's also Dragon Emperor's Gazetteer. But yeah, the TNZ World Guide is a really good place to go to for a lot of things. So just when we're talking about TNZ, go to the World Guide. Kwanlai, the nation of Tengu. Traditionally, but there are now a lot of people there. Athmaras, dragons, humans, Kitsune, merfolk, Nephilim, Yaoguang. More than just the Tengu. There's reasons behind this, the growth of it. But this is the traditional nation of the Tengu people. It's just become, because of the nature of the Tengu clans, a place that many call home. Its capital is Hisui-Karasu, governed by the Kan Council, with Lady Sutari Gongen as the current ruler. There's much to talk about with this nation. But just know that they have faced a lot of dangers, a lot of problems, and have built them stuff out. It's on the eastern side of the main continent of TNZ, and it has been relatively unstable and poor. A lot of problems. Perhaps more united now than ever, but still on. We should dive into them. Now, this is one of their cities, a picture of one of the main places in their city. We'll talk about the city, Todorokazu. This would be the largest shrine to one of the Tengu deities, Pathfinder. We'll talk about all this later, but I wanted to use this one. It's a nice picture when we talk about the city. So, what is Kwanlai? Isn't one nation per se historic. That's the basically way you have to look at it to begin with. Because currently, what we know of as Kwanlai comes about from the collapse of Long Wall, the conquerors of the continent. After 105 years, the chaos that Long Wall inflicted upon this nation still remains. Poverty, lack of prosperity. It is still difficult. The clans still fight amongst themselves. You know, there are cooler heads now, trying to get peace and cooperation. And pre-imperial folklore that still exists, folktales of the time from before. So basically, its history dates back to the squabble of the various Tengu clans. They had little more than city-states during the early times of this region. Basically, they would squabble amongst themselves in this Tengu region and had these little things. With the Shu Empire's collapse, the Reba clan rose to prominence, establishing the state of Otoya, ruling through a dedicated, balanced council of clan elders. So, this was the establishment of the first version of a nation. Basically, Shu Empire had kind of conquered the region. They collapsed. One of the clans rose to the most prominence, basically formed a ruling state to a degree. Then Long Wall came up, crushed the nation, slayed the council member, razed the capital city of the Whistling Swords, and absorbs Otoya into their territory, renaming it Kwanlai. The residents still continue to call themselves Otoyans. Granted, they haven't changed their name from Kwanlai. Maybe they will change it in the future if they decide to, but they haven't yet. And over the centuries, Lungwa taxed them into near starvation, treated them as a dumping ground for undesirables. Basically, the Empire knew that killing leaders of seditious factions might inspire rebellion, and instead exiled over 500 thieves, assassins, political enemies to Kwanlai. They wanted to fracture the dissenting groups across Tianzi, solidifying a stranglehold on the continent. This failed. Granted, it increased a large number of people that would become the ancestors of the non-Tengu population in the nation. That's why there is a non-Tengu population that is still not the most sizable, but enough of a percentage that it's there. But these rebels joined the local clans. They shared their skills, their ire for the Empire. And the priesthoods of Heifang and Desna forged an uneasy alliance. These two priesthoods that didn't really get along found common ground in freedom. So they founded secret training camps, warrior priests. And in 7106 IC, the clans and priests rose up during the Feather and Starlight Rebellion, capturing and killing every Imperial officer in simultaneously midnight raids across the country. After this, the region collapsed into pre-Otoya factionalism. Basically, that factionalism that the Otoyan people had undone. We went back to that old time. So this brief but intense clan skirmishes, guild rivalries, slaying hundreds. The nation might have continued to descend into chaos, with these very old, really old entities just taking everything over, if not for a new enemy. Wansha, the nation of Krakens. Well, nation ruled by Krakens, launched 2 invasions. They wanted to flood the often rainy lands and use as a base to control the sea from Zadao, the ocean region. Initially, the Otoyans' efforts were chaotic, almost counterproductive, clans tripping at each other, failing to coordinate efforts, but they learned to rebel the invaders. And since then have constructed a robust series of forts, battlements, and dry land, making the border crossing challenging for aquatic people. Hey, making it nigh impossible for Krakens. Up yours, Krakens. We'll talk about them even more in the future when we talk about some things, but there's very up yours Krakens. So after a century after the fall of their initial oppressors, they still cherish a sense of community, but struggle in cooperations. And their current leader, as I mentioned, Sutrai Gongan, is the current hope for the future. Forging a national identity, the Otoyans may once again have a home. A simple but difficult struggle. A bunch of warring clans, eventually through conquest by another that fell, driving them together into one nation, conquered again, falling apart to the old warring clans, driven together by an enemy. Story as old as time. Well, maybe not. We can pretend it is. Anyway, here's our nation. There's a good picture of it. We can see where a lot of the major places are. Now, this place is like its history, tumultuous at best. There really isn't flat land. It's rolling hills, valleys, draws, spurs. The place is difficult to travel through, because there isn't really flat places. The rolling hills, at best, slow your travel. At worst, they break wagon axles. The rivers aren't much better. There are very few of them are deep and wide enough for anything but light riverboats. And they've got so many people that it's a mixed bag around them. Their southern border is with Tianjin, who's generally friendly, though most of the border is through the Kimu Mountains. That hampers trade. Of course, north is Wansho. Yeah. They wait for the next invasion for that one. To the west are Linvare and Shenin. They enjoy easy peace with them, as they don't have a lot these nations would want, and the mountains that are next to them are a barrier. But they do have a great ally in Zadao, to the east. And of course, a great trade partner with Minkai, across the water. Now, there are a couple of natural places in here. Hey, the city of Whistling Swords, that ancient city that was the capital of Otoyas, it still exists. It's filled with ghosts and spirits. Well, there are still ghosts there, but there's also a horrible underworld dragon named Jahi that rules over the place with his servants. Kamuko Woods is a nice trade route and a pass to the Kimu Mountains. There's another pass where the Spectre Woods are. It's a little bit more poorly maintained. In the center, at the foot of the Kimu Mountains, is the Vale of Green Spurs, a dense bamboo forest where the legendary Tian Shen convinced a wizard to plant 100 million trees. Was convinced by a wizard to plant as a test of the hero's ability to provide home for displaced birds. The bamboo forest is still there, with some of the oldest bamboos that tower over it hugely. And these stalks make impressive scale, make prime material for large drums. The fresh shoots are a delicacy. So this bamboo, though, isn't without peril. There was a Genshirin, a forest dragon, that protected the old growth until recently, but now her young stalk the forest looking for prey. So she's kind of retired from guarding the place. She just lets her young eat anybody that might do any problems. Oh, you kids, just eat some of the people there. Let's talk about their cities. So, it's got its heavy militarized northern border with Wanshu. But its hills, its mountains are teeming with farming, logging, mining communities. These settlements don't have a lot of attention overall. And a few rivers are not great for shipping. Overland shipping sucks because of the hilly conditions. So the coast is where it prospers. Mitsukarasu, its capital. We can start with that. On the coast, a symbol of pride for the Kwanlai people. It was the seat of the Imperial Lungwa's control. And during the Feather and Starlight Rebellion, victory here ensured the Lord Samhenwa was powerless to stop the rest of the Empires. So the leadership is here. It also has a submerged Zdao embassy with a diplomat at hand, with the Oceanic Kingdom. And Minkai and Tianjing have embassies here. They're less red. And you will find, a given day, 100,000 gold worth of cargo resting in the harbor. Now, some of it is stolen without the approval of one of the thieves' guilds in the city, Suguchi. But they know it's not the other thieves' guild, because the kind faces, the Hisukarasu, are usually fleecing tourists in the theater district, not getting into burglary. So, again, we'll talk about this, but the thieves' guilds are very important parts of this entire nation. Nagai Yamatsu is a more medium-sized city that straddles the Sangha River, the widest and deepest rivers, making it the only freshwater and saltwater port in the entire nation. It also has the dubious honor of being the city closest to Tianjing's infamous haunted Kangshi Island. That's another nation's problem. Technically. While prosperous, its history halts further growth. It began as a cluster of river delta farms, but Imperials forcibly relocated them, placing them with a hybrid city of stone and floating bamboo. The city's edge abuts with displaced farmers whose owners refuse to yield more ground. So yeah. Todoro Kaze, the one I showed the big shrine for. It's the only city in the Kimu Mountains. It draws scores of travelers. It's a stopping point for any caravan shipping goods to the mountains. And it has Hie Fang's shrine there, the biggest in all of TNZ. The tempestuous weather rules the nates there, and lightning rods dot the city, flanking all roads of the city limit. And during storms, they glow under curtains of light. A few other small cities to mention that we know about, but don't have a huge amount of information for, are, of course, Seido Yaji, which is a city within there. The Thieves Guild of there is responsible for the Autumn of Iron Tears, a conflict with the Thieves Guild of the city of Todoro Kaze that escalated in a full-blown proxy war between the two cities. And of course we can mention good old Yangma, a small Tengu area situated in the Kimu Mountains, briefly under the control of Klipoff. That's a pretty dark one too. Corrupted by it briefly, but also well known for being popular by entirely Tengu, one human. Courier. Human ranger, the only human of the small town. And then we know that as of 7218 AR, Kemiya Kambayo is the mayor. Shrine of Sacred Tempest is stuff. Dive deeper into it for some information, and probably the adventure that deals with it. That's a Pathfinder Society said it. I provide all the information. Those are the things we know. Let's talk about who's in charge of the city. So, before we get into our good friend here, Sutrai Gongan, we have to know about the elephant in, well, the Tengu in the room, the clans. The clans of Kwanlai are a system of family. But these familiar like treat blood and adopted relatives equally. That's an important part. So there are Nephilim, Kitsune, Aramathro, Tian Mins, Tian Shus that the Lungwa forcibly resettled to Kwanlai that are just as part of the Latoyan clans as any Tengu. So all those exiles they send there have integrated with the clans. Just 5 years ago, at the time of the book here, which would have been last year, so 6 years, Consul Ure Utsujugo of Seidon Yaji was the first Kwanlai history to be an Amathmaru. That was part of the Sevenfold Council. So, you can have non-Tengu be part of the clans. If you are a member of the clan, that's all that's important. You do not need to be of Tengu blood. If you have been adopted by a clan, you are a family member of that clan. You are one of us. So the Sevenfold Council leads the nation. It's named the Council of Elders, but really in the end, Lady Gongan holds the real power here. She steers the discussions, influences the vote. She is proven benevolent, at least. That's the good part about it. The Sevenfold Council represents the 25 clans. 5 major clans have full membership. The other 20 recognized clans share 2 votes. Clans not officially recognized don't even have a token of rule in government. None of them have brought up this issue, but there is resentment that stirs here and there. So, maybe there are more clans to recognize. Sutari Gongan has reached her position because of a number of interesting reasons. She's a woman of both Celestial and Tengu descent. She's half Celestial. So we're not talking about, Celestial blooded. One of her parents was a Tengu. One of them was a Celestial. True half Celestial. She's from the prefect of Heifang. She traveled Golarion, a healer, a warrior, meting out violence and compassion when necessary. There are legends that say she materialized as a lightning bolt in the old shrine of Todoro Kaze, burning it to the ground. The old Heifang one, where they had to build a new one. She has a warm image transcending religious differences. She's devoted to Heifang, but popular among Desnians, followers of the Monkey King, and those that don't commit to a single deity. Her great detractors come from her own priesthood, interestingly enough, who basically would like Heifang to be the Kuai Long's official god. When they bring this up to her, she kind of gives a smile and, politely listens, and then just goes back to work. She wants to build a stable political and economic base for Kuai Long, shore his weaknesses, make sure there's rifts between the clans are mended, and continue to prepare for whenever Wanshu finally decides to invade again. She's got bigger, literal fish to fry. Giant squid monsters on the door, bigger problems. So, let's talk about some members of the council that are important to know about. Head of the Kimu Mountain Yamate clan, member of the Sevenfold Council, is Yamate Kiki, who guards the western borders, takes her guard of that border more seriously than anybody. Shenmen have had kind of incursions on the border. She hasn't really taken real action against them because she doesn't want a diplomatic or military response. But, she does have to deal with Porto Kaze smugglers bringing contraband out from the Shenmen. Of course, defending the most dangerous border is Counselor Wanami Kuko. They were trained as a 4-person Coco is accustomed to martially focused people understanding them, something they exploit with unconventional solutions to military problems. Unfortunately, experimenting with border defenses requires testing, which they can't really do without tipping off Wansho. So, yeah. Coco, they just don't feel trust anything they can't trust. They're hungry for new technologies. You know, they want to build the border up more and be ready. Basically, they've got someone who builds defenses in charge of the border. Counselor. Our wealthiest person in Kwanlai, and leader of the clan that founded Otoya many centuries ago, is Nareba. Counselor Nareba. Only goes by the surname, Nareba. We're not on business. They're Hitsu Karasu's governor. There's hardly an enterprise there that, they don't get into the good, that you don't have. Hardly an enterprise they're not connected to. Getting into their good graces, his good graces, convincing others' approval, really big on. The two Thieves Guild would love to embarrass him. Karatsu Gucci would love to steal his ships, and the kind faces dream of pulling a con on him. The elder of the Noyaki clan, Noyaki Fun, basically is looking to the oral traditions, which I'll talk about when I talk about the culture a little bit and people. Oral traditions are very important to the traditional people, but paper and writing down things is becoming bigger and bigger. So they fighting a kind of losing battle against that. It's a kind of hard thing. And of course, another important individual is the priest of Sun Wukong, Susumi Kenko, who's been basically trying to get the extremists within the Fengen Sunderstorm Covenant, one of the major groups within Fang, to basically denounce Desna and other deities, to basically lose political support and positioning as extremists. Technically, their extremism is having a positive effect. We'll talk about that. It's weird. But they're basically, they want to kind of. Let's talk about the people of Kwanlai. So, music's very important. It's one of those things is that music marks the beginning of the day and the end of the night. Morning flute melodies in the morning stillness, and at night the midnight drums. Basically, Lunghwa curtail music. Regulate the instruments, some of them out of existence in some ways. Kwanlai's 13-string zither, has only recently returned. But basically, for 4 centuries, the Empire permitted a single musician per settlement to greet and bid farewell to the days. With the overthrow, they wanted to make flutes and drums, and now there's a cacophony of noise in the mornings and the evenings. Flutes start the day across the nation, stir people from their homes, and people head out. Shopkeepers set up stalls in local markets. Workers go to work, school, favorite hangouts. Permanent shops, woodcutters, field workers. In cities where indoor jobs are common, everybody gets out of their home. The people that only live in their same workplaces, like innkeeper, are the only ones that stay. And interestingly enough, elders in the local Thieves Guild protect anybody's home from theft. So your elders would stay behind, they retire from their job. The local Thieves Guild is like, yeah. During the day, you don't rob them people. They're out getting honest work done. I love the Thieves Guilds of Kwanlai. There's just some interesting... we don't know enough about it. We should know more. Now, because there isn't just one people in Kwanlai, the schedules and diary needs of the people vary. So there isn't a lot of fixed meal times, with the exception of dinner. Throughout the entire day, if you want a hearty breakfast, you aren't going to get it. Grains and seeds are pretty big. There's little fruit, vegetables, seafood, almost no meat. That was the kind of things that things have been. Red meat is still very unexistent. But fish-based snacks and meals have been rising, especially with the connections with Zidao. So, and there's more income for people. So basically, throughout the day, you have small meals or snack. So, street vendors and hawkers selling snacks and treats are everywhere, even in rural settlements. In a rural settlement, someone will go out per day, set up their kind of small shack, and probably have people stop by throughout the day, picking up little things to snack on, because you eat that little stuff throughout the day as you eat. Takoyaki, batter fried octopus, has become a favorite since Wanshu's attack. Take that, Krakens! Up yours! I love that one. When the sun goes down, the place comes alive. Performances, leisure, it's big. One of the old traditions is, of course, oral stories told by elders. That's something that has been in traditional art form, where the stories are told by them. Now, this has been waning and losing favor. Plays and concerts have begun to be rivaling these elders' tales to the chagrin of traditionalists. And though there are some creative elders that have begun to basically integrate things, having performances to physically embody these stories, or music to go along with their traditions. So they're still telling those tales, but they're having things go on with it to basically come up with a new version of these oral traditions. And if you don't want to be in public when seeing stuff, you can go to a tea house. That can also be released for various reasons. Activity tapers off around midnight. You get home with the midnight drums. You tend to live with your extended relatives, often performing different work during the day, not seeing each other. And dinner is the only time for families to bond. The importance means that missing dinner is a sign of trouble, or possibly marriage on the way. Either way, an absent dinner can be expected, badgering questions upon your return. And because of the familiar nature of dinners, you don't really get guests at night. Innkeepers provide dinners for their customers, but lodgers are expected in your rooms. If you are invited to dinner in Kwanlai, you've effectively been adopted into a family. Naturally, turning down an invitation is a big insult in the country. Keep that in mind. Kwanlai is a coastal nation. It's warm, humid a lot of the time of the year. There is a growing season. Basically, when we get into midsummer, into autumn, late summer into late autumn, rain. Fields flood. Basically, it's a reminder why, hey, another important part of the city is stilts. It's a rainy, wet nation. They build a lot of their houses up on stilts. And life is around this thing. Artisanal and mineral exports are pale in comparison to the agricultural industry. Alcohol, coffee, tobacco are their chief exports, and depend on the rainfall. The tobacco, which needs better drainage than the soil can provide, are basically in special planters on the stilted buildings. Harvested as a cash crop, dried in huts with smoky bamboo fires that give them a very characteristic flavor. Now, they don't export a lot of rice or buckwheat, but these also fuel their main industry for alcohol, where they have Kwanlai Shu, a rice wine, and Mugi Ski, a buckwheat whiskey. At the end of the rainy season, is not the first sunny week, but Hatchin is a celebration that honors farmers and elders in each settlement. Despite its name, it honors the farmers and elders in each settlement. For the first 2 days, Otonians lavish hatchlings and young children with gifts and games. Sneakball games are pretty big. They'll basically have tournaments before the week, with a final game to kick off the first day. The middle day recognizes the hard work of farmers, each person receiving a single kernel of rice or buckwheat from a ceremonial harvest stall. The final 2 days see younger generations. I'm going to take a drink while I do it. Reciting and reflecting on elders' deeds and stories. Basically, after this is crop harvesting time, preparing for transport. Farmers flock the roads during mid-autumn, taking crops to larger towns where wholesalers will either sell it off to local groups or ship it out to various places that need to go. Winter also has merchants bringing basically things in the next leg of their journey. In the last of Forest, hey, on some Golarion, go look those up. I've talked about them, I think, before. That's when they celebrate the overthrow of Lung Walk, with a pair of holidays, the final oath days of the month. The first is Feather Day, which celebrates the coming together of the 5 largest clans to form the fighting force, the Feathers of the Wind. It's a time of unity, bring the clans together, erase divisions, pull out the fabric of Kwanlai. It is a secular holiday that adheres to all faiths, celebrating the victory. Starlight Evening, on the other hand, has very religious overtones. All Otonians are welcome to participate, but Haifang and Desna's centricity of the holiday is impossible to ignore. The priests regale, of both religions, regale crowds, local heroism during the Feather and Star Rebellion, being sure to point out the moments where victory stemmed from Haefengen's unpredictability or passions, as well as the destined artistry or luck. Basically, both sides being like, our people did really great. Yeah. So, yeah. So this is a land that is filled with a lot of broken dreams bonded back together. That's the best way to do it. They have an idiom, hands are golden, which means that through time and labor, they can overcome inequality. So, that's some of the things that they've been shaping. Just as the bamboo stilts can always be... You can put... That's the thing is, rivers overflow, places flood, the stilts that let water flow beneath, they don't go for expensive. They can always put more bamboo. They can always put bamboo, shore it up more. And these are characteristics that are in a lot of places. Again, the mountain communities are the only place you might not find stilted buildings. It's because of the harsh conditions and flooding of their region. Also, one of those things is, every crumb is precious. They've been a hungry nation. So anyone too polite to ask for food starves. And you will see, in a lot of places where there are patronage, shouting. And the shouting of tea houses and other places in noisy evenings, basically, they're getting the server to notice them and help them out. Now, for religion, we do have to mention, I mentioned the Haefengens and Desnans being the big worshippers, and a lot of holidays focusing on those two. And then you've got the factions like Haefengs, Sunderstorm Covenant. They want Haefeng theocracy. Nationalized religion holiday. But interestingly enough, their path that they're pushing forward this is actually encouraging a growing number of Etonians to observe more than one faith. Basically, they're pushing a lot of people to multi-faiths, interestingly enough. Alcohol was pretty big. During Lenoir, it was not. But now, it's big. They're a mass producer. Now, they don't consume a lot of alcohol, but their rice wine and buckwheat whiskey are actually losing ground to a new venture between Kwanlai and Bachuan. Dragon's Tongue. Yes. These two nations have gotten together and come up with a new alcohol. Ooh. Basically, it's composed of a blend of Kwanlai Shu, Mugi ski, peppers, spices, and creates a fiery beverage that appeals to Etonians' basically tremendous spice tolerance. They basically combine their two traditional drinks into something new and better, and it's popular. The growing popularity more than the old two drinks they have. And the government encourages tourism and consumption of an annual amount at a drinking competition in spring. Come, have our unique drink that we've created here, get drunk at a drinking competition. Come visit. Practicality is important. And it's important in all their things, including clothing. Buttons, why do that when you can have a cord or not a belt that does the job? Loose adjustable clothing over layers, straw bamboo shoes, or Tengu geta for daily wear. There's few farmed mammals and almost no cotton, so virtually all clothing in Kwanlai is composed of bamboo, straw, wood, or wood cloth, with the latter being the most common by far. With the latter being the most common. Wealthy Otonians wear fur, leather, or ray skin. Wood cloth exemplifies the Tengu philosophy that hands are golden. Basically, since you don't have the money to import textiles, they decided beating bamboo and pine trees into fibers, spinning those into yarns, and weaving them into cloth is the easiest path. The unconventional wood cloth performs well as any other textile, and it's raw material, mainly costs nothing, just a little time and effort. And that's kind of a little bit like, what you got there. But, yeah. That's it for, Kwanlai. Kwanlai is an interesting nation because it has suffered a lot. But it's a nation that unity has been difficult to find anyway. we can see that the people here, clans, have fought with each other traditionally so many times. It's only now, with the threat of a new enemy finally once, that they do not want to be conquered a third time, that they're finally kind of building and united. And the thing is, they have expanded and built upon these people. Lungwa built a better nation. It inserted more people, blood, stuff that made them evolve into a better nation in that way. We can see that there are more to the clans than just Tengu. It is still a Tengu nation, but it does not mean that you could not find a home in Kwanlai even if you are not a Tengu. You could. You could find a clan just as much as if you are by blood, a member. And then you are family. Family is important. And these families getting along will be the call of Kwanlai evolving and growing in strength and becoming a nation that's better for its people. It's still a harsh place. It's still a poor place. But it's getting better. With unity, with some new friends and trading partners, and a little bit of ingenuity, things like new alcohols that are exciting, they might just find themselves a better people. And a people that have faced this adversity and grown from it to be better ones. The strength of them. And that saying, hands are golden. Time and labor will overcome it. There you go. Kwanlai. I hope you enjoyed learning about them. They're definitely a very interesting nation, the Tengu nation, and they have faced a lot of adversities put through. I hope you enjoyed them. Hey, if you do like enjoying them and want to see more, remember to support this place, like, subscribe, ring the bell. Let me know in the comments what you think of Kwanlai. How about, would you make a character from here? What kind of character would that be? And what other kind of adventures, maybe as a GM, would you be inspired for in this nation? I'm curious. If you want to see more of my stuff, you can always check out my schedule. It goes up on my social medias and my YouTube community page. Social medias linked below, wherever you're at, our Discord, Blue Sky, Twitter/X. Check them out. That tells you when I'm either live over on Twitch, when I'm uploading stuff on YouTube. The live on Twitch is a little bit more open-ended just because, hey, life schedule, getting that down a little bit more. It lets you know when I'm recording stuff or just doing gaming. The YouTube side, pretty exact. If stuff comes up, that's when I change it. Hey, alright everybody, I'm going, hang out on Twitch, maybe record more stuff. Until next time, dive into another nation, ancestry, something related to Pathfinder, or any other tabletop game out there. I bid you all out there a deep and wonderful farewell.